Alright, let's chat about in-app purchases and how they're dominating the top grossing charts in the App Store. But first, I want to quickly address something. My last video created a fair amount of controversy, and I'd just like to say that whilst I appreciate people taking the time to share their views, even though we may fundamentally disagree, which is fine, people disagree, that's how the world works, but I do not accept hate speech on my channel. So if you're writing just to promote your own narrow-minded hate speech, then that comment will simply be removed. Look, we can disagree, but let's keep it civil. Now, let's get back to the big issue, the dominance of in-app purchases on the App Store. Recently, Graham Spencer, a journalist from MacStories.net, published a report detailing the App Store's top grossing apps. And lo and behold, apps with in-app purchases absolutely dominated the scene, with 99% of the top 200 apps offering in-app purchases. 99%. Games absolutely dominated by category, with 68% of the top 200 grossing apps being games. So, let's pose a question. Is this a problem? Are in-app purchases bad? Should we even care if they're dominating the App Store? Maybe they're actually great for app developers and consumers. And then again, maybe they're not. Regardless, I can't help but feel that the way in which they're being implemented and pushed on users is just plain bad practice. I mean, firstly, these apps use dark patterns to trick you into making purchases that you otherwise wouldn't make. Games, for example, are meticulously crafted to frustrate you, at which point these payment opportunities are presented. You're not paying for adding value, you're simply paying to escape frustration, and there's a difference there. Secondly, these payments are often converted into in-game currencies designed to disconnect you, the customer, from the actual act of making a purchase. Instead of using money to buy items or functionality, you're purchasing these abstracted in-game currencies, such as gems or coins or tokens. And this is the exact same practice that casinos use. That's why you don't use real money at a casino. Instead, you're gambling away these essentially worthless plastic chips. Thirdly, it has become seriously difficult to not only monitor your spending, but to justify the value and logic behind these purchases. As if the value of software wasn't already hard enough to digest, we've now begun to abstract it even further. We've basically dug ourselves into this hole, where apps that do offer an upfront one-off payment are ignored because of their high barrier to entry. Before you can even see the thing for yourself, you have to pay. And I can't be bothered going to YouTube to look at a review, I just want something now, so I'll grab a free one and see if that does the trick instead. And the App Store itself is completely to blame here. Apple never implemented the concept of a trial or a refund period, at least not an obvious one. This is the reason that in-app purchases came to be so popular. App developers just couldn't charge large upfront costs. The average price for an app in the App Store is significantly lower than traditional desktop software. And sure, this has a little to do with apps being slightly simpler and more focused, but it's also because of Apple's whole 99 cents for a song thing, which filtered down into the App Store. They truly commoditize software in every sense of the word, and don't get me wrong, that has been a great thing for developers and consumers. There's no real denying that, but when push came to shove, these big name companies needed to make some serious coin, and well, in-app purchases became the vehicle to make that money. As I said, developers couldn't charge large amounts for an app, quite simply because there was no way to truly tell what value you would get out of it until you used it. So instead, they leveraged in-app purchases to lower the barrier to entry and then squeeze as much money out of you as possible. Now don't get me wrong here, in-app purchases can be great for consumers. You basically get to buy the things you want and ignore the ones you don't. But sadly, it didn't really play out this way. At least not with games, and at least not with the big name developers like King, EA, and Supercell. Instead, they abused the system, and just look at the results. So how do we solve this problem? Well, recently Apple announced that they will integrate subscription payments into the App Store so that any developer can now use subscription-based payments. This ultimately means that developers can make more money, but it also lowers the upfront price point for the consumer and allows them to leverage a trial period within that first month. I don't think subscriptions will completely eradicate in-app purchases, and to be honest, I wouldn't want them to. But it does give developers an alternate option here to compete with the apps and games that do heavily rely on in-app purchases for adoption and monetization. But what's the real solution here? Apple should offer a trial period so that developers can really show consumers the value of their app without such a high barrier to entry. Look, let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comment section below, and if you liked today's video, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Thanks, and I will see you guys next time.